Saying, hold it, you know, don't talk to me, talk to the person next to you on the bus.
These pilgrims were determined at all costs to cross the ocean to the New World and to found a home where they could live in their own way.
Christianity and capitalism arrived in America in the same boats. 150 years later, though, the Founding Fathers made the separation of church and state a cornerstone of the new Constitution.
Of course, the role that religion has played in America in terms of its identity led to this paradox of the United States being founded on the idea of separation of church and state, becoming one of the most religious nations in the world.
One nation, indivisible, those kids pledged in 1953. A year later, the words "under God" were added to the pledge. It was the height of the Cold War.
We ask God in prayer to change the hearts of the godless leaders of Russia.
President Eisenhower spoke of spiritual weapons. With the addition of "under God" to the pledge, Ike said, "We are reaffirming the transcendence of religious faith in America's heritage and its future." 50 years later, 9 out of 10 Americans insist that they believe in a God. But America's atheists are still battling to maintain the line drawn by the Constitution between politics and God.
One nation, indivisible! One nation, indivisible!
The American Atheists Organization claims there are 30 million non-believers in America, but they can only mobilize a couple of thousand for a march on Washington. Polls suggest that atheists are more reviled than any other group. In some states, atheists are barred from public office. Still, Ellen Johnson, president of the American Atheists, remains defiantly upbeat.
Whether you know it or not, we are your neighbors, your friends, your spouses, your lovers, and your children.
As Ellen Johnson calls the role of godless Americans, it's clear the American atheists remain a beleaguered minority. They're still manning the ramparts of unbelief in the spirit, if not the style, of Madalyn Murray O'Hair.
Give them all a big hand.
God save the United States and this honorable court.
O'Hair's Supreme Court victory in 1963, abolishing school prayer, shook godly America. It also made Madalyn notorious, a national celebrity.
When the case was decided, she was pictured on the front steps of the U.S. Supreme Court with Bill and John Garth, her sons, and she was promptly quoted in the paper that she was just beginning to go after established religions in America, that she was not going to just rest on removing prayer from the schools, that she was going to go after tax-free property for religious institutions, that she was going to go after the under God phrase in the Pledge of Allegiance. She was going to try to stop the Pope from using the National Mall when he came. She brought suit against the Space Agency when they prayed in space.
Do you know that after the moon mission that the Pope issued an announcement that it was the duty of the government soon to put missionaries on those flights? To convert other life forms.
Overnight, O'Hair became the most hated woman in America. She was thrilled.
Being described as the most hated woman in America gave her power. I mean, if you're the most anything, you must be a pretty powerful person.
She's doing everything that she can to be hated. But some would say that That was her shtick. That was her identity. That's how she made her money, by being hated. Where she is somewhat unique in the movement is that she's the first to seize the name atheist and proclaim it and put it up in banners that she is not only an atheist, but at one point she was saying, I am the atheist.
As the 60s began to rock, Madalyn's outrageous campaigns made sensational headlines. She got generous support. A 77-year-old nudist non-believer gave her land and money for an atheist center. Thousands of dollars arrived in every post. But the O'Hare family life was in uproar. Their house was stoned. Bill and his brother were beaten up. Madalyn received death threats. She just turned up the volume.
I do believe that these people are intent in ruining me completely, and that killing me is not out of their mind.
In the mid-60s, the headlong melodrama of O'Hare's life reflected the gathering rebellion across America. After a violent confrontation with Baltimore police over a domestic dispute, Madalyn fled to Hawaii and then in May 1965 to Mexico. Within months, she was expelled.
I was approached one night at gunpoint and herded onto an airplane.
Madalyn still faced 100 years in jail for assaulting Baltimore policemen, but a legal loophole canceled her charges. She set up her headquarters in Austin, Texas, relishing the rebellious atmosphere of America in the 60s.
It's as if Madalyn caught the wave, you know, the timing couldn't have been better. She began to catch the counterculture movement of the 60s, where nothing was sacred. Everything was to be examined, everything was challenged. And Madalyn ended up in the thick of that and was carried by that wave forward. She knew how to play it. She knew how to stage things. She knew what people expected, and she was going to, whenever she appeared, she was the public Madalyn.
Constantly on the move, Madalyn pursued new targets. She championed masturbation. She ridiculed the Pope. She challenged the words, "Under God," in the Pledge of Allegiance, and "In God We Trust" on dollar bills. Grabbing big TV ratings, she became a scandalous demon on the talk shows.
Ladies and gentlemen, here is Madalyn Murray O'Hare.
We knew if we were going to succeed with this daytime television show, we better have something that will compel the viewer. And my first guest was Madalyn Murray O'Hare. You can imagine. I mean, I found Elvis. I mean, this woman drew a very large crowd, and that's what I was paid to do, although I thought her message was very, very important.
Your grief is not assuaged as would be the religionist who believes that there is another place where happiness will again be abundant.
Oh, that's a big lollipop.
I know you don't believe that. I'm
we
asking...
must look at them, and we never say they've passed over, or they're gone to their reward, or they have been transported, or anything else. People are dead.
Madalyn could be very, very unpleasant and sarcastic. Almighty God, she pronounced God, God. You go ahead and pray, and she'd laugh at people who prayed.
You're going to spend your whole life